Rudolf Hess, one of Adolf Hitler's closest deputies and the third most powerful man in Nazi Germany, remains one of the most enigmatic figures from World War II. Known as Hitler's loyal confidant, Hess perplexed the world when, in May 1941, he piloted a solo mission to Scotland in what he claimed was a peace mission. His flight, which was unauthorized and disapproved by Hitler himself, ended in his capture and imprisonment by the British for the remainder of the war. The strange nature of his journey, coupled with his subsequent silence and isolation, created an aura of mystery around him, one that would deepen after his death in 1987 and culminate in a bizarre controversy regarding his burial and the potential swapping of his body. Hess claimed he sought peace with Britain, allegedly acting on what he believed were Hitler's desires to avoid war with the United Kingdom. His supposed aim was to broker peace and form an alliance against the Soviet Union. However, many believe Hess was acting independently, driven by an obsession with astrology and his belief that he could play a messianic role in ending the war. After spending 40 years in Spandau Prison, Hess was found dead, hanged in his cell in 1987, in what was officially ruled a suicide. Yet, the secrecy surrounding his death and the destruction of his burial site decades later have led to numerous conspiracy theories, most notably whether the man who died in Spandau was truly Rudolf Hess or a double. The truth behind Hess's mission and death has been buried under layers of secrecy and speculation. The British government has kept certain documents classified, fueling suspicions that there was more to Hess's flight and subsequent life in captivity. Adding to the controversy was the claim by his family and some historians that Hess had not killed himself but had been murdered. Furthermore, in the years following his death, far-right neo-Nazi groups flocked to his grave, glorifying Hess as a martyr for the Nazi cause. This transformed his resting place into a shrine for hate, leading to the destruction of his grave and the exhumation of his body in 2011. The mysterious circumstances surrounding Hess's death have only deepened the conspiracy theories. At 93 years old, suffering from arthritis and frailty, Hess was not in any physical condition to tie a noose and hang himself, according to some reports. His family insisted he was murdered, possibly by Western intelligence agencies, to prevent him from revealing sensitive wartime information. Others speculated that the man who spent 4 decades in Spandau Prison was not Rudolf Hess at all, but a doppelganger, and that the real Hess had been swapped out after his capture in 1941. This theory gained traction due to inconsistencies in accounts from the time. British intelligence documents indicated that Hitler was enraged by Hess's flight, immediately denouncing him as mentally unstable. Yet, after the war, Hess remained a staunchly loyal Nazi, refusing to divulge details about his mission, remaining silent at the Nuremberg trials, and showing little interest in his eventual release. The strange, erratic behavior of the man in Spandau led many to wonder if this was the same person who had been one of Hitler's most trusted lieutenants. Hess's grave in Wunsiedel, Bavaria, became a flashpoint for neo-Nazi gatherings, turning the once quiet cemetery into a hotspot for extremist rallies. For decades, far-right groups held annual pilgrimages to the site, saluting Hess's grave with Nazi slogans and wreaths, turning the small Bavarian town into a stage for hate-filled demonstrations. With a 2005 court ruling failing to curb the gatherings, the church overseeing the cemetery made the controversial decision to terminate the lease on Hess's grave, and in 2011, his remains were exhumed. Even after Hess's remains were cremated and scattered at sea, the conspiracy theories surrounding his life and death persisted. His exhumation reignited the claim that the body in Spandau Prison was not his. Some have argued that Hess's original autopsy in 1987 was superficial and did not address the discrepancies in his physical characteristics. For instance, during his time in Spandau, Hess was said to have lacked the distinctive scars from injuries he sustained during World War I, further fueling speculation that a double had replaced him. The controversy around the body swap theory was reignited by forensic experts. In 2019, a team of forensic pathologists analyzed old dental records and x-rays of Hess, comparing them with those of the prisoner in Spandau. They concluded that the man who died in the prison was indeed Rudolf Hess, dismissing the body double theory. However, for many conspiracy theorists, this was not enough. The layers of secrecy surrounding his flight, imprisonment, and eventual death have kept the controversy alive. Despite the forensic evidence, the legacy of Rudolf Hess remains shrouded in mystery and speculation. The destruction of his grave was intended to prevent it from becoming a rallying point for neo-Nazi extremists, and for the residents of Wunsiedel, the removal of his remains brought a sense of relief. The far-right pilgrimages that terrorized the town for years ceased, allowing the local community to move on from the dark association with Hess. However, the broader question of Hess's role in Nazi history, his flight to Britain, and the possibility of a body double continue to capture the imagination of conspiracy theorists and historians alike. The bizarre circumstances of his death have made him a symbol for various far-right movements, which see him as a victim of Allied injustice. The exhumation of his body and the destruction of his grave have not erased his influence in extremist circles. On the contrary, they have added fuel to the fire of those who believe there is more to Hess's story than meets the eye. One of the most dramatic and controversial aspects of Hess's story is not just the mystery of his death, but the strange convergence of far-right extremism and historical legacy that his memory has come to represent. In the eyes of many neo-Nazis, Hess's solo flight to Britain symbolizes an attempt at peace and reconciliation, casting him as a misunderstood figure who sought to avert the horrors of war. For others, Hess remains a steadfast Nazi who never wavered in his loyalty to Hitler's genocidal regime. The destruction of his grave in Wunsiedel, while a victory for anti-fascist groups, also left an open wound in the form of unresolved conspiracy theories. Neo-Nazi groups continue to venerate Hess, now focusing their efforts on preserving his memory through underground channels and internet forums. The scattering of his ashes at sea was meant to prevent any further glorification, but Hess's name and legacy persist, haunting the shadows of both World War II history and the ongoing struggles against far-right extremism. The crimes associated with Hess are part of the broader atrocities committed by the Nazi regime. Though he was not directly involved in the Holocaust, Hess was an ardent supporter of Hitler and played a pivotal role in shaping Nazi ideology. His conviction at the Nuremberg trials, though cleared of war crimes and crimes against humanity, did not absolve him of his responsibility in the Nazi regime's crimes against peace. Hess's death, however, became a martyrdom for modern-day neo-Nazis. For years, they flocked to his grave to pay homage, chanting hate-filled slogans and glorifying the man who had remained a staunch Nazi until the end. These gatherings, often violent, were a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked extremism, with the grave of one of Hitler's deputies serving as a symbol for far-right extremists long after the end of World War II. The opening of Rudolf Hess's tomb did little to silence the controversies surrounding his life and death. From his strange flight to Britain to the persistent conspiracy theories about his body being swapped, Hess remains a figure who defies simple explanation. The destruction of his grave in Wunsiedel was a symbolic act to prevent the glorification of his legacy, yet it also left many questions unanswered. Hess's life, death, and the decades of speculation surrounding him serve as a reminder of the enduring allure of conspiracy theories, especially when they intersect with extremist ideologies. His story, from high-ranking Nazi official to isolated prisoner, continues to fascinate and disturb, a ghost from the darkest chapter of history that refuses to rest.